Hello, Education 214. If you are watching this, it means you got into our Edmodo course shell. So thank you so much. I think, and I was thrilled, the discussions, the ideas, the questions, the support are already starting there. And so I hope this will be a great, like I said, source of community, source of support, especially for those, since we go a while between meeting for classes. So anyways, thank you so much. And I was just thinking about you, and so I wanted to touch base and say hi. And let's see, what else was I going to do? So we meet this Thursday, and go ahead and bring that paperwork and just submit it directly into your folders. I've discovered through much trial and error that with the amount of paperwork that goes into this class, it just seems to be most effective if students just always bring whatever's due, and just, you don't even have to give it to me, just put it right in that folder. I check at the end. Actually, I check before the end to make sure everybody's kind of on track. But that way, and then you just check it off. And so it gives you a sense of what's due and when it's due and keeping track of all of that. So I've met with some of your cooperating teachers, and we're setting up appointments for the others. It's always really good because it is a time to kind of clarify questions, and it gives me a kind of a person and a name and a face with your cooperating teacher, and them, vice versa with me, and kind of a representative from the college, and kind of a more of a sense of what this experience is for you. So I just want to say thanks so much for that. And I wanted to read you, and this is from, I'm sure many of you are familiar with her, our dear Bell Hooks, whom I love. But I just wanted to read you this little bit on engaged pedagogy because I love it. And it just seems like in the midst of all these forms, and in the midst of all the paperwork, and in the midst of everything that everybody has going on in class, it's a good reminder. So, engaged pedagogy. To educate as the practice of freedom is a way of teaching that anyone can learn. That learning process comes easiest to those of us who teach, who also believe that there is an aspect of our vocation that is sacred, who believe that our work is not merely to share information, but to share in the intellectual and spiritual growth of our students. To teach in a manner that respects and cares for the souls of our students is essential if we are to provide the necessary conditions where learning can most deeply and intimately begin. Throughout my years as student and professor, I've been most inspired by those teachers who have had the courage to transgress those boundaries that would confine each pupil to a rote assembly line approach to learning. Such teachers approach students with the will and desire to respond to our unique beings, even if the situation does not allow the full emergence of a relationship based on mutual recognition. Yet, the possibility of such recognition is always present. Paulo Freire and Vietnamese Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh are two of the teachers who have touched me deeply with their work. When I first began college, Freire's thought gave me the support I needed to challenge the banking system of education. That approach to learning that is rooted in the notion that all students need to do is consume information fed to them by a teacher and be able to memorize and store it. Early on, it was Freire's insistence that education could be the practice of freedom that encouraged me to create strategies for what he called conscientization in the classroom. Translating that term to critical awareness and engagement, I entered the classrooms with the conviction that it was crucial for me and every other student to be an active participant, not a passive consumer. Education as the practice of freedom was continually undermined by professors who were actively hostile to the notion of student participation. Freire's work affirmed that education can only be liberatory when everyone claims knowledge as a field in which we all labor. That notion of mutual labor was affirmed by Thich Nhat Hanh's philosophy of engaged Buddhism, the focus on practice in conjunction with contemplation. His philosophy was similar to Paulo Freire's emphasis on praxis, action and reflection upon the world in order to change it. In his work, Thich Nhat Hanh always speaks of the teacher as healer. Like Freire, his approach to knowledge called on students to be active participants, to link awareness with practice. Whereas Freire was primarily concerned with the mind, Thich Nhat Hanh offered a way of thinking about pedagogy, which emphasized wholeness, a union of mind, body, and spirit. His focus on a holistic approach to learning and spiritual practice enabled me to overcome years of socialization that had taught me to believe a classroom was diminished if students and professors regarded one another as whole human beings, striving not just for knowledge in books, but knowledge about how to live in the world. During my 20 years of teaching, I've witnessed a grave sense of dis-ease among teachers, irrespective of their politics, when students want us to see them as whole human beings with complex lives and experiences, rather than simply as seekers after compartmentalized bits of knowledge. Progressive, holistic, engaged pedagogy is more than that. Is more demanding than conventional critical pedagogy. For unlike this practice, it emphasizes well-being. That means that teachers must be actively committed to a process of self-actualization that promotes their well-being if they are to teach in a manner that empowers students. Thich Nhat Hanh emphasized that the practice of a healer, therapist, teacher, or any helping professional should be directed toward his or herself first, because if the helper is unhappy, he or she cannot help many people. So this idea of education is the practice of freedom. I just wanted to toss that out there to you, and I hope your experiences right now are going well, and I look forward to meeting the rest of your cooperating teachers and principals and to seeing you on Thursday night. Okay, see you then.